Jake Morrison felt cold metal against his back as his eyes opened for the first time in 60,000 years. The cryogenic pod hissed and steam poured out around him. His body felt strange, different somehow, but he could not understand why. "Captain Morrison, welcome back to the living," said a calm female voice. It was Helen, the ship's computer system. "Revival process complete. All vital signs normal." Jake sat up slowly and looked around the massive chamber. Thousands of metal pods stretched out in long rows, each one containing a sleeping human. Red lights were blinking on many of them now, which meant people were starting to wake up. "How long, Helen?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer would be hard to hear. 60,000 years, Captain. The date is now 90,000 AD. The New Horizon has been drifting between star systems as planned. Jake stepped out of his pod and noticed something odd. He felt stronger than he remembered. His muscles did not ache like they should after such a long sleep. His mind felt sharper too, like he could think faster and see things more clearly. Dr. Lisa Carter was already awake and moving between the pods, checking on other people as they woke up. She was the ship's chief medical officer and one of the smartest people Jake knew. When she saw him, she walked over with a confused look on her face. "Captain, something strange is happening," she said. "The people waking up are different. Their bodies are stronger, their reflexes are faster, and some of them are showing signs of mental abilities we have never seen before." "What kind of mental abilities?" Jake asked. "Watch this," Lisa said. She pointed to a young woman who had just woken up. The woman, whose name tag said Amy Rodriguez, was standing near her pod with her eyes closed. "Amy, can you tell me what I am thinking about right now?" Amy opened her eyes and smiled. "You are thinking about your daughter back on Earth. She had brown hair and liked to paint pictures of flowers." Lisa's face went white. "That is impossible. I never told anyone about Sarah's paintings." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. How did she know that? "I can hear thoughts sometimes," Amy said simply. "Not all the time and not from everyone. But some people's minds are easy to read." More people were waking up now. Tony Blake, the ship's engineer, was already working on the control panels. His hands moved across the buttons and switches faster than Jake had ever seen anyone work. It was like Tony knew exactly what each system needed before he even looked at it. "Captain," Tony called out, "we have big problems. Many of the ship's systems have broken down over the years. But the good news is that I think I can fix them faster than we thought possible. My brain seems to understand the machines better now." Jake walked over to the main viewing window and looked out into space. Stars filled the darkness, but they were not the same stars he remembered from Earth. They had traveled far from home during their long sleep. "Helen, are we picking up any signals from other ships or planets?" he asked. "Yes, Captain. There are many radio signals coming from nearby star systems. It appears that intelligent life has built a large civilization while we were sleeping. However, the signals do not seem friendly." "What do you mean?" "Listen to this message that has been repeating for the past 3 days." Helen played an audio recording. The voice was strange and mechanical. "Unknown vessel, you are entering restricted space. Primitive species are prohibited from this sector. Turn back immediately or face destruction." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. "Primitive species? We are humans from Earth. We have every right to be here." Dr. Carter walked up to them. "Captain, I have been running tests on the people who have woken up. The results are incredible. Our DNA has changed during the long sleep. The cosmic radiation and the hibernation process have activated genes that were sleeping in our bodies. What does that mean for us? We are stronger, faster, and smarter than we were before. Our lifespans have increased dramatically. Some of us can read minds. Others can survive in space for short periods, and many can interface directly with computer systems. We have evolved, Captain." Tony looked up from his work. "The ship's weapon systems are coming online. Whatever is out there sending those warnings, we might need to defend ourselves." Jake thought about this carefully. Humanity had left Earth because it was dying. They had slept for 60,000 years hoping to find a new home among the stars. Now they were awake and had discovered that they were no longer the same species that had left Earth. They were something new, something more. But they were not alone in space. Other beings had claimed this part of the galaxy and did not want humans here. "Helen, how many of our people are still sleeping?" Jake asked. "Approximately 3 million humans remain in hibernation across 8 generation ships, including this one." "And how many have awakened so far?" 237 on this ship. The other ships are beginning their revival processes now." Jake looked around at his crew. These people had trusted him to lead them to safety, and now they faced a new challenge. The galaxy had changed while they slept, and they had changed too. Amy Rodriguez walked over to them. "Captain, I am picking up thoughts from far away. There are alien minds out there, and they are afraid of us." "Afraid of us? Why?" "They have never seen a species like us before. We are different from anything they know. Our abilities scare them." Tony finished his work on the control panel and turned around. "All systems are working now, Captain. The ship is ready for whatever comes next." Dr. Carter nodded. "The people are adapting well to their new abilities. We should wake up more of them as quickly as possible." Jake made his decision. "Helen, begin waking up everyone on all the ships. Contact the other captains and tell them what we have learned. We need to prepare for first contact with these aliens." "What if they try to stop us?" Amy asked. Jake looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were watching them, deciding what to do about the humans who had suddenly appeared in their territory. "Then we show them what humans can do," he said. "We have evolved, but we are still human. We still fight for our freedom, and we still protect our own." The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had awakened, and they were not the same species that had left Earth so long ago. 3 days later, the New Horizon entered the Kepler 442 star system. Amy Rodriguez sat at the navigation controls, her enhanced mind calculating flight paths that would have taken computers hours to figure out before. "Captain, I am detecting multiple ships approaching," she said. "They are moving in formation and do not look friendly." Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the main screen. 12 sleek alien vessels appeared, their hulls shining like mirrors in the starlight. They were beautiful but clearly built for war. "This is Commander Rick Parker requesting permission to speak with the aliens," came a voice over the communication system. Rick was leading the diplomatic team that would make first contact with whatever species lived in this system. "Permission granted, Commander," Jake replied. "Dr. Karen White and Ben Hayes are with you?" "Yes, Captain. We are ready to meet our new neighbors." The alien ship surrounded the New Horizon but did not fire. A voice came through the radio speaking in perfect English that sounded cold and mechanical. "Human vessel, you will follow our ships to Zentari Prime. Do not deviate from the assigned course or you will be destroyed." Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he controlled himself. "Helen, how did they learn our language so quickly?" "Unknown, Captain. Their technology appears to be very advanced." The human diplomatic team took a small shuttle to the planet's surface. Rick Parker looked out the window as they descended and saw a world covered in crystal towers that reached into the clouds. Everything was perfect and clean, but somehow felt cold and lifeless. The aliens who met them at the landing pad were tall and thin, with skin that looked like living crystal. Their leader introduced himself as High Regent Vexhai, and his voice sounded like wind blowing through caves. "You are the primitive species we detected entering our space," Vexhai said. "You will submit to our authority and accept placement in designated areas where you cannot cause harm." Dr. Karen White, the team's xenobiologist, stepped forward. "We are not primitive. We are explorers looking for a new home. Surely we can find a way to coexist peacefully." The regent's crystal face showed no emotion. "Coexistence is impossible. Your species shows signs of uncontrolled evolution. This makes you dangerous to the established order." "What established order?" Rick asked. "The Great Council has ruled this galaxy for 40,000 years. 5 species work together to maintain peace and stability. No new species may join without proving their submission first." Ben Hayes, the security chief, did not like the sound of this. He was a big man with broad shoulders and had always been protective of his people. Now, with his enhanced abilities, he felt even stronger and more alert than before. "What kind of proof do you want?" Rick asked, trying to keep the conversation peaceful. "You will submit to genetic cataloging so we can understand your biology. Your leaders will undergo mental conditioning to ensure loyalty. Your ships will be disarmed and your people relocated to supervised colonies." Dr. White felt a chill of fear. Through her newly developed telepathic abilities, she could sense the aliens' true intentions. Vexhai was not interested in peace. He wanted to study humans like laboratory animals and then decide whether to keep them as slaves or destroy them completely. "That is unacceptable," she said firmly. "We will not submit to slavery." The regent's eyes flashed with anger. "You have no choice in this matter. Guards, restrain the primitives for processing." 4 Zentari soldiers moved toward the humans. They were larger than the Regent and carried weapons that hummed with energy. Ben Hayes stepped in front of his teammates, ready to protect them. The first guard reached for Dr. White with a crystalline hand. Ben reacted without thinking, grabbing the alien's wrist and twisting. There was a sharp crack and the guard's arm broke like glass. Everyone in the room froze. The guard was twice Ben's size and should have been much stronger, but the human had snapped his arm like a dry stick. "Impossible," Vexai whispered. "Your species reading showed no enhanced physical capabilities." The second guard raised his weapon, but Ben moved faster than anyone could follow. He crossed the room in a blur, knocked the weapon from the alien's hands and threw him into the wall. The Zentari hit the crystal surface and slumped to the floor unconscious. Dr. White's eyes went wide as she felt more alien minds focusing on their location. "Rick, there are more soldiers coming. They are very angry and very scared." "Scared of what?" Rick asked. "Of us. They have never encountered a species with abilities like ours." The Regent stepped backward, his crystal face showing fear for the first time. "What are you?" "Our scanners detected nothing unusual about your biology." Rick smiled grimly. "We are human, and we do not submit to anyone." Ben grabbed Dr. White and Rick. "We need to leave now. I can hear more guards coming down the hallway." They ran toward their shuttle, but Zentari soldiers appeared at every turn. Ben fought them off with incredible speed and strength, while Dr. White used her telepathic abilities to warn them of ambushes before they happened. "There are 30 guards between us and the landing pad," she said, "but I can sense a back route through the building." They escaped through a maintenance tunnel that led to the roof. From there, Ben actually jumped from building to building, carrying his teammates until they reached their shuttle. As their small ship lifted off, Rick contacted Captain Morrison. "We are coming home and we have a big problem. These aliens rule the galaxy through fear and control. They see us as a threat to their power." "Why would they fear us?" Jake asked. "Because we can do things they cannot." Ben just fought off a dozen armed soldiers with his bare hands. Karen read their minds and knew their plans before they acted. They have never seen abilities like ours. On the new horizon, Jake gathered his senior staff. Dr. Lisa Carter had been studying more of the awakened humans and had disturbing news. "Captain, the aliens are right to be afraid," she said. "Our evolution has given us abilities that no other species seems to possess. We are stronger, faster, more intelligent, and some of us have mental powers that border on the supernatural." Tony Blake looked up from his engineering console. "The question is, what do we do about it? If this great council sees us as a threat, they will try to destroy us." Amy Rodriguez was monitoring alien communications. "Captain, I am picking up encrypted messages between ships in this system. They are calling for reinforcements. How many ships?" "Thousands. Maybe more. They are mobilizing a massive fleet to deal with us." Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. 3 million humans were depending on him to keep them safe, and they were facing an enemy that controlled the entire galaxy. But as he looked around at his crew, he realized something important. These people were no longer the frightened refugees who had fled Earth 60,000 years ago. They had evolved into something new, something powerful. "Helen, contact the other generation ships. Tell them to wake up everyone as quickly as possible and prepare for war." "War, Captain?" Dr. Carter asked. "The aliens want to enslave or destroy us simply because we exist," Jake said. "We will not let that happen. Humanity has survived ice ages, wars, plagues, and the death of our home planet. We will survive this too." Rick's voice came over the communication system from the shuttle. "Captain, there is something else you need to know. The Regent mentioned 5 species that rule the galaxy. If they are all working together against us, we are facing impossible odds." Jake nodded grimly. "Then we better make sure we are ready for them. It is time to show the galaxy what humans can do when we fight for our survival." The news of humanity's abilities spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. In the Great Council chambers, 5 ancient species gathered in emergency session for the first time in 3,000 years. The chamber was vast, with each species occupying their own section. The Zentari sat in crystal towers that hummed with energy. The Vorth clustered together in a writhing mass of insect-like bodies that shared a single hive mind. The Ashanti floated as beings of pure energy, crackling with power. The Cruel stood in military formation, their armor gleaming. And in the center, the ancient Eldarians waited, their massive forms barely fitting in the space. Eldarian Prime Cathara spoke with a voice that made the walls tremble. We have ruled this galaxy for 40,000 years, by preventing any species from developing beyond acceptable limits. These humans threaten everything we have built. High Regent Vexhai projected images of Ben Hayes fighting Zentari soldiers. They possess physical capabilities that exceed our measurements. They can read minds across species barriers. They show no fear of superior numbers or technology. The Vorth Queen's voice buzzed from 1,000 throats speaking as one. Our collective intelligence cannot predict their behavior patterns. They act as individuals but coordinate like a hive mind. This should be impossible. General Cruel 7 slammed his armored fist on his command table. They are warriors, but not like any we have seen. They fight with honor, but also with cunning. They could inspire rebellion among our subject species. The Ashanti Elder's energy form pulsed with worry. If other species see that evolution beyond our control is possible, they may attempt to follow the human path. The stability we have created will collapse. Cathara's ancient eyes glowed with cold light. The verdict is clear. These humans are classified as a Class X evolutionary anomaly. They must be contained or destroyed before their influence spreads. How many ships will this require? General Cruel 7 asked. All of them. Every vessel from every species. 10,000 ships will converge on human space within one cycle. We will show the galaxy what happens to those who threaten the established order. Meanwhile, aboard the New Horizon, Captain Jake Morrison was dealing with his own crisis. The other generation ships had awakened their populations, and 3 million humans now faced the reality of their situation. Dr. Lisa Carter burst into the command center with incredible news. Captain, we have discovered something amazing. The evolution is not random. Our DNA contains sequences that were placed there deliberately. What do you mean, deliberately? Someone or something modified human genetics long ago, probably before we left Earth. The modifications were designed to activate under specific conditions: cosmic radiation exposure and prolonged hibernation. Jake felt a chill. Are you saying someone planned for us to become what we are now? It appears so. But whoever did it left no records or messages. We may never know why. Tony Blake had been working around the clock to convert the generation ships into warships. Captain, I have good news and bad news. The good news is that our ships are incredibly adaptable. The bad news is that we are facing impossible odds. Helen Wright, the new strategic advisor, had been studying galactic communications. She was a thin woman with sharp eyes who seemed to understand military tactics better than generals with decades of experience. The Council fleet is massive, she said. 10,000 ships from 5 different species, each with technology thousands of years ahead of what we had when we left Earth. But they have weaknesses, Amy Rodriguez added. She had been using her telepathic abilities to intercept alien communications. Their coordination is poor because they do not trust each other completely. The Zentari think they are superior to the others. The Cruel only respect strength. The Vorth cannot make quick individual decisions. The Ashanti fear physical contact. The Eldarians are slow to adapt to new situations. Commander Rick Parker had returned from several scouting missions to other systems. There is something else, Captain. Many of the species under Council rule are unhappy. They are forced to remain primitive and are punished for showing any signs of advancement. If they saw someone successfully challenging the Council, they might rebel. Jake walked to the viewing window and looked out at the 7 other generation ships. Each one was now armed with weapons that Tony's people had built, using their enhanced engineering abilities. They were still vastly outnumbered, but they were no longer helpless. How long before the Council fleet arrives? He asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3, Helen replied. Dr. Carter had more revelations. Captain, I have been testing our people's abilities more thoroughly. Some of them can survive in hard vacuum for up to 30 minutes. Others can interface directly with computer systems just by touching them. A few can actually see energy patterns that are invisible to normal eyes. Danny Foster, one of the ship's pilots, demonstrated by putting his hand on a control panel. Instantly, his eyes glowed with a strange light, and the ship's engines responded to his thoughts rather than manual controls. This is incredible, he said. I can feel the ship's entire system like it is part of my body. Betty Lane, the communications officer, had discovered she could send telepathic messages across vast distances to other humans on different ships. Captain, I can coordinate our entire fleet without using radio. The aliens will not be able to intercept our communications. Joe Davis, a former Marine sergeant, had tested his physical limits and found he could function normally in environments that would kill ordinary humans. Sir, I can work in space without a suit for short periods. So can about 50 others. We could board enemy ships directly. Jake gathered his senior staff for a final planning session. We are not just fighting for our survival. We are fighting for the right to exist as free beings. The Council wants to control or destroy us because we represent change, growth, and evolution. Helen Wright spread out tactical displays showing the approaching enemy fleet. They expect us to run or surrender. They have never faced a species that fights back with abilities like ours. Tony Blake had finished his preparations. All ships are ready, Captain. We have weapons, shields, and armor that should surprise them. More importantly, we have people who can do things they have never seen before. Rick Parker stood up. What if we do more than just defend ourselves? What if we take the fight to them? What do you mean? Jake asked. They rule through fear and overwhelming force, but they have never faced an enemy that could strike back at their home systems while fighting their main fleet. With our abilities, we could coordinate attacks across multiple fronts. Dr. Carter looked worried. That would be incredibly dangerous. We would be starting a galactic war. Amy Rodriguez smiled grimly. Captain, I am reading the minds of some council species even from this distance. They are already planning our extinction. The war has already started. We just need to make sure we win it. Jake looked around at his people. They had evolved beyond anything humanity had been before, but they were still human at heart. They valued freedom, protected their families, and refused to bow to tyranny. Then we fight, he said, not just to survive, but to show the galaxy that no species has the right to control the destiny of others. We will break their system of oppression and create something better. Helen Wright began issuing orders to the fleet commanders. All ships prepare for combat operations. We face the Council fleet in 2 weeks, but the battle for freedom starts now. The 8 human ships turned toward the approaching enemy armada. 3 million evolved humans prepared to face 10,000 alien vessels in a battle that would determine the future of the galaxy. The Council had ruled through fear for 40,000 years. They were about to learn what happens when fear meets courage, when stagnation meets evolution, and when oppression meets the human spirit. The Council armada arrived in human space like a storm of metal and energy. 10,000 ships stretched across the darkness, their combined mass blotting out entire star fields. General Cruel 7 commanded from his flagship, confident that this would be the shortest war in galactic history. Primitive humans, he broadcast to his fleet, prepare for immediate surrender or total destruction. But when the Council sensors focused on human space, they found something impossible. The 8 generation ships had been completely transformed. Their hulls gleamed with new armor. Weapons bristled from every surface, and they moved with precision that suggested perfect coordination. More shocking still, the humans had built a massive base on a nearby asteroid. Structures that should have taken years to construct had been completed in weeks. Workers could be seen moving on the surface without protective suits, laboring in hard vacuum as if it were ordinary air. Admiral Sam Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Defiance, formerly the New Horizon. His hair had gone gray during the preparations, but his eyes burned with determination. Around him, his crew worked with superhuman efficiency. All ships report ready, Admiral, Betty Lane announced. Her telepathic network connected every human ship instantly, allowing coordination that was faster than light itself. Danny, take us forward, Sam ordered. Danny Foster's hands glowed as he touched the control panel. The Defiance responded to his thoughts, moving with grace that no ordinary pilot could achieve. Around them, the 7 other human ships moved in perfect formation. The Council fleet opened fire first. Thousands of energy beams and missiles filled space with deadly light, but the human ships moved like they could see the future, dodging attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. Amy Rodriguez sat at her station with her eyes closed, her mind reaching out to touch the thoughts of enemy gunners. Portside barrage in 3 seconds, she called out. Starboard missiles launching now. The human ships twisted and spun through the enemy fire, taking hits that should have destroyed them, but somehow staying intact. Tony Blake's enhanced engineering had created armor that adapted to different types of weapons, growing stronger with each impact. Then the humans struck back. Joe Davis led a boarding party of 50 Marines who launched themselves directly into space without protective gear. They crossed the vacuum between ships and began cutting their way through Council hulls with tools that seemed to bend reality itself. This is impossible, General Cruel 7 roared. Living beings cannot survive in space without protection. But the humans were not ordinary living beings anymore. They moved through the vacuum like it was water, their enhanced physiology allowing them to hold their breath for half an hour, while their skin protected them from radiation and pressure. Dr. Karen White had discovered something crucial during her analysis of council biology. Admiral, their species have become dependent on their technology. The Zentari cannot survive outside their controlled environments. The Vorth lose coordination when separated from their hive clusters. The energy-based Ashanti can be disrupted by specific frequencies. All ships, target their life support systems, Sam ordered through Betty's telepathic network. The human attack was unlike anything the Council had ever experienced. Instead of focusing on destroying enemy ships, they targeted the aliens' weaknesses. Centauri vessels found their environmental systems failing. Fourth ships lost communication between their group minds. Ashanti energy forms were scattered by harmonic weapons that Tony Blake had designed. High Regent Vexhai watched in horror as his crystal warriors began dying when their life support failed. How do they know our vulnerabilities? This information is classified at the highest levels. Dr. White smiled as she worked at her station. Amy, can you find their fleet communication codes? Amy's telepathic abilities reached across space, touching alien minds and reading their thoughts. Got 'em. Broadcasting their private communications now. Suddenly, every ship in the Council fleet could hear the desperate messages between the 5 species. The Zentari were blaming the Cruel for poor military planning. The Cruel accused the Eldarians of being too slow to adapt. The Vorth claimed the Ashanti were cowards for staying at the back of the formation. They are turning on each other, Rick Parker observed from his command ship. 40,000 years of partnership and they fall apart at the first real challenge. The battle raged for hours. Human ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting, their crews working miracles of repair and adaptation. Danny Foster's pilot abilities allowed him to perform maneuvers that violated physics, while Tony Blake somehow kept weapons running that should have overheated and exploded. But the real turning point came when Ben Hayes led a direct assault on the Council command ship. He and a team of enhanced humans cut through the hull and fought their way to the bridge. The Eldarian Prime Cathara was there, massive and ancient, confident in his species' superiority. You cannot defeat us, primitive creature, Cathara rumbled. We have ruled this galaxy since before your species learned to make fire. Ben looked up at the towering alien with no fear in his eyes. Maybe that is your problem. You have been in charge so long you forgot how to fight. The battle on the command ship was brief but decisive. The ancient Eldarion, for all his size and power, moved slowly and could not adapt to Ben's speed and strength. When Cathara fell, the remaining Council forces lost their coordination completely. Admiral Mitchell watched as enemy ships began fleeing in all directions. Some Zentari vessels tried to surrender, while cruel warships turned their weapons on their former allies. The Ashanti simply vanished, dispersing into energy and disappearing from the battlefield. Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from over 3,000 ships, Betty reported. The rest are either destroyed or fleeing. Sam looked around his bridge at the incredible people who had made this victory possible. Humans with abilities that defied explanation had faced the greatest military force in galactic history and won. Casualties? He asked. Dr. Lisa Carter's voice came through the communication system from the medical bay. Surprisingly light, Admiral. Our enhanced healing abilities have kept most injuries from being serious. We lost 12 people, but thousands are alive who should have died. Tony Blake was already analyzing captured Council technology. Admiral, their ships are incredibly advanced, but they are designed by species that have stopped evolving. Our people can adapt and improve this technology in ways they never imagined. Helen Wright was coordinating with the other ship commanders. Sir, we have reports coming in from across the galaxy. Subject species are declaring independence from Council rule. The Viridian Collective has overthrown their Zentari overseers. The Metallic Brotherhood has seized cruel weapons depots. Dozens of worlds are in open rebellion. Amy Rodriguez opened her eyes and looked around the bridge with a strange expression. Admiral, I am detecting something incredible. There are human minds out there scattered across the galaxy. What do you mean? Before Earth died, other human ships must have left the solar system. There are colonies, settlements, maybe millions of humans who have been hiding or enslaved by the Council. They are waking up now, realizing they are not alone. Rick Parker's voice came through from his ship. Admiral, we just received a message from the Kepler 438 system. A group calling themselves the Free Human Republic has taken control of 3 planets. They say they have been waiting 60,000 years for Earth's children to return. Sam felt a surge of emotion. Humanity had not only survived their long journey through space, they had evolved, grown strong, and won their freedom. But more than that, they had sparked a revolution that was spreading across the entire galaxy. "All ships stand down from combat alert," he ordered. "Begin rescue operations for survivors and prepare to receive surrender delegations." The first great battle was over, but Sam knew this was just the beginning. The Council's grip on the galaxy was broken, but what came next would determine whether this victory led to a new age of freedom or simply replaced one form of tyranny with another. Looking out at the debris field where the Council Armada had been destroyed, Sam made a silent promise. Humanity would not become the new oppressors. They would build something better, something worthy of the evolution that had brought them this far. The galaxy had trembled when humans awoke, and now it would learn what it meant to be free. 5 years had passed since the Great Battle, and the galaxy was unrecognizable. Admiral Sam Mitchell stood on the observation deck of New Terra Station, watching ships from dozens of different species working together to build something that had never existed before, a truly free galactic civilization. New Terra itself was a marvel. The planet had been uninhabitable when humans first found it, but their enhanced abilities allowed them to work in toxic atmospheres and extreme temperatures. Within 2 years, they had transformed it into a garden world where multiple species could live comfortably. "Admiral, the morning briefings are ready," said Emma Carter, Dr. Lisa Carter's daughter who had been born after the awakening. She was now 25 and served as a communication officer, her natural telepathic abilities even stronger than the first generation. Sam smiled as he looked at the young woman. Emma represented something wonderful. Humans who had been born with their enhanced abilities rather than developing them through evolution. She and others like her were bridging the gap between what humanity had been and what they were becoming. "Thank you, Emma. How are the diplomatic missions progressing?" "Very well, sir. Commander Parker's team has made contact with the Spiral Arm Confederation. They want to join the Free Worlds Alliance. Dr. White's expedition to the Outer Rim has discovered 3 more species that were hidden by the Council for thousands of years. The Free Worlds Alliance had grown from the ashes of the Council's empire. Instead of the rigid hierarchy that had oppressed the galaxy for so long, it was a confederation of independent species that chose to work together for mutual benefit. Captain Jake Morrison, now serving as the civilian leader of the Human Colonial Authority, joined Sam at the observation window. His hair was silver, but his body was still strong thanks to human longevity enhancements. "Beautiful sight, is it not?" Jake said, looking out at the construction work. 5 years ago, we were refugees running from a dead planet. Now we are part of something that spans half the galaxy. "Any word from the exploration fleets?" Sam asked. Danny Foster's squadron found another human colony in the Vega sector. Apparently, they left Earth 3,000 years before we did and have been hiding from the Council ever since. Their technology is different from ours, but they have evolved in similar ways. This had been one of the most amazing discoveries of the past few years. Humanity had spread throughout the galaxy long before the Great Sleep, and isolated human populations had survived in secret for tens of thousands of years. Each group had developed unique abilities while maintaining their essentially human nature. Tony Blake approached them, his arms covered in grease from his latest engineering project. "Admiral Captain, you need to see this. We have completed the first prototype." They followed him to a massive hangar where something incredible waited. It was a starship, but unlike anything that had ever been built before. Its hull seemed to shift and flow like living metal, and energy patterns danced across its surface. "We call it the Harmony," Tony said proudly. "It combines human engineering, Zentari crystal technology, Fourth biological systems, and Ashanti energy manipulation. The crew interfaces directly with the ship through neural links, creating a partnership between organic and artificial intelligence." Dr. Lisa Carter emerged from the ship, her medical scanner showing readings that made Sam's eyes widen. The ship is alive in a very real sense. It learns, adapts, and grows stronger with experience. More importantly, it can only be operated by crews from multiple species working together. "Why is that important?" Jake asked. Helen Wright, now serving as Director of Galactic Relations, answered. because it ensures that no single species can dominate others through superior technology. The Alliance's strength comes from cooperation, not conquest. This philosophy had guided everything humanity did in the post-Council galaxy. Rather than using their abilities to rule over other species, humans had become facilitators and teachers, helping former Council subjects develop their own potential. Amy Rodriguez, now Admiral of the Exploration Fleet, returned from her latest mission with incredible news. "We have found them," she announced. "The species that modified human DNA before we left Earth." Everyone gathered around as Amy shared her discoveries. They call themselves the Gardeners, and they have been watching the galaxy for millions of years. They do not interfere directly, but they plant seeds of potential in species that show promise. "What did they say about us?" Sam asked. "They are pleased but not surprised. Humans were one of several species they modified, hoping that at least one would develop the abilities needed to challenge systems of oppression. We exceeded their expectations." Rick Parker had established the diplomatic corps and spent most of his time mediating disputes between species that were learning to govern themselves. "The important thing is that we are not the only ones. The Gardeners have been preparing other species in distant parts of the galaxy. We may encounter them someday as equals rather than as the only evolved species." Emma Carter looked up from her communication console. "Admiral, I am receiving a priority message from the Andromeda contact mission." This was perhaps the most ambitious project of the New Age. Human explorers with their enhanced abilities were attempting to establish contact with the Andromeda galaxy, something that would have been impossible under Council rule. "Put it through," Sam ordered. The voice that came through was unmistakably human, but with an accent that suggested isolation for thousands of years. "This is Commander Sarah Kim of the Andromeda expedition. We have made contact with the local civilization here, and the results are extraordinary. Report, Commander. The Andromeda species welcome us as long-lost relatives. Apparently they have legends about travelers from the Milky Way, who would one day return bearing gifts of freedom and cooperation. They have been preparing for our arrival for 50,000 years. Jake felt a chill of wonder. How could they know we were coming? Dr. White's voice came through from her laboratory. Captain, I have been analyzing the genetic modifications in our DNA. I believe the Gardeners have been orchestrating this for much longer than we realized. They have been guiding the development of multiple species across multiple galaxies, creating a network of evolved civilizations. Ben Hayes, now head of the Alliance Security Council, had concerns. What if we encounter species that refuse to cooperate? Not everyone will welcome our philosophy of freedom and equality. Helen Wright nodded. That is a real possibility. But we have learned something important over the past 5 years. Species that are allowed to develop naturally without oppression tend toward cooperation rather than conquest. The Council system created the conflicts they claim to prevent. Betty Lane, who had become the Alliance's chief coordinator, used her telepathic network to connect with human colonies across the galaxy. I am receiving reports from all sectors. Human populations are integrating successfully with local species. There have been challenges, but no major conflicts. Tony Blake had been working on another project that excited him greatly. We are ready to begin the next phase of galactic development. The Harmony-class ships can carry mixed crews to unexplored regions, establishing contact with species that have never known the Council's influence. Joe Davis, who had become an instructor at the Alliance Military Academy, trained soldiers from many different species to work together. Our biggest success has been showing other species that strength comes from diversity, not uniformity. Every new member makes the Alliance stronger. Sam looked around at these incredible people who had transformed from refugees into the builders of a new galactic order. What about Earth? Any word from the Restoration Project? Dr. Carter smiled. The terraforming is proceeding ahead of schedule. Human-enhanced abilities have allowed us to work in environments that would have been impossible before. Within 50 years, Earth should be habitable again. Emma interrupted with urgent news. Admiral, I am detecting something incredible. There are signals coming from the Galactic Center, from the region that was supposedly empty. What kind of signals? Human signals, sir. Very old, but definitely human. I think there may be a colony that has been there since before Earth was settled. Jake and Sam exchanged amazed looks. After all these years, humanity was still discovering how far their species had spread across the galaxy. Prepare an expedition, Sam ordered. But this time we go not as conquerors or refugees, but as representatives of the free galaxy we have helped to build. As the meeting dispersed, Sam remained at the observation window. Ships from hundreds of worlds moved through space with purpose and cooperation. Former enemies worked together on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. A young child, half human and half Centauri, ran past the window with friends from a dozen different species. They were playing a game that seemed to involve floating in mid-air and manipulating light patterns with their minds. Emma joined him at the window. "Admiral, do you think we have done the right thing? Sometimes I wonder if we have taken on too much responsibility." Sam considered the question carefully. "I think we have done the only thing we could do. We could have